Hi, I'm Vic Bearcroft, and today I'm going to be painting a kitten in pastels on velour paper. Now, what I've done is prepared an outline already so that we can use Tracedown paper to transfer the image onto the velour. So make sure your Tracedown paper is facing the right way and just tape it in position where you want to align the sketch. So there I'm in position. What I'm going to use is an 8B graphite pencil for transferring the image onto the velour. This is soft enough so that it won't leave a visible imprint on the velour paper. If you use a harder graphite, you might score the paper and you'll find it difficult to get rid of. So start off quite softly, just tracing around the outline. And it's maybe as well just to check after you've done a little section to make sure the outline is actually coming through onto the velour. So just lift it and yeah, that's coming through fine. And just continue all around. You only want at this stage just a basic outline, basic features and so on, just to make sure that the proportions are correct and that everything is in the right place. And the final bits, the nostrils, and we'll have a little bit of an outline of the shoulder on this side, just to finish it off. Again, a final check before you take the Tracedown off to make sure everything's in situ, and there we are. Happy with that, so now we can take the Tracedown paper off and prepare for the next stage. For the next stage, we're going to prepare a tonal sketch using a blue-grey pastel. The tonal sketch really is about reinforcing the features and the outlines and creating some mid-tone shadow values. Normally I might use a darker tone, maybe even black, but because this is a white kitten and I want to keep the feeling of softness, I'm going to use the grey instead. So starting at the ear, we'll just use the edge of our soft grey pastel just to reinforce that shape. I don't want to create too strong an outline because she is white furred, of course, and too strong an outline will kill that highlight that we want to preserve for the end. So quite a gentle outline around the ears, around the white fur, and so on. So not pressing too hard at all. So the advantage of these pastels is that we're able to get a reasonably defined line just using the edge of the pastel, and then we can use the side of the pastel for more general painting. So again, just reinforce those shapes, the important shapes, the lips, the chin, the outline of the cheeks, those little whisker follicles, and then being very careful around the edge of the nose and the nostrils. We don't have to worry too much about ultrafine detail for this one, just as long as we have the shapes precise and reinforced. Notice again I'm just drawing around the outside of the pupils, which will be filled in later, and just re-sketch those reflections. So that's the first part of the tonal sketch completed, which is reinforcing the outlines and the features. Next I'm going to use the side of the pastel, almost like a 1-inch paintbrush, just to get the basic shadow tones in. Of course we have grey paper already and the shadow tones in white fur will be grey, but this blue-grey will just enhance that a little bit. So again I'll start around the ears, noting where our shadow values are going to lie, very, very gently stroking in with the blue-grey pastel just to create that shadow side of the face, which is on the right-hand side, and the shadows inside the nose and around the eyes. Once we have an area laid down with the side of the pastel like so, just take your finger and rub it. The rubbing action will push the pastel into the paper, which will help it to stay there, but also it'll help to soften the edges. And we don't want any hard edges around our little soft white fluffy kitten. Get the shadow around the jaw, in the cheeks, So around the nose, a little bit down into the chin, and again, rub it with the finger, soften the edges, push the pastel into the paper. That's very important on velour paper so that the pastel will stay there, it'll stick. You'll have noticed by the rubbing action that we don't disturb the outline that we've already created with the grey pastel. That stays there. That's one of the advantages, of course, of using velour paper. So just a few more shadows, little shadow around the shoulder here, into the chest. Notice now that the light grey paper becomes our lightest value, and we can see the chin, for example, almost jutting forward because we have those varied tones. Just a final check. We want a little bit more shadow around that eye, I think. A little bit more inside the ear. A little bit around there perhaps, and that's our tonal sketch complete. So now we're ready to move on to stage 3. Okay, so the next stage is blocking out. That's simply blocking out the main areas of colour in our portrait. For this I'm going to use two colours. First of all, I'm going to use light red, which represents the pink in the ears, around the eyes, the nose and mouth and so on. So again, taking the side of the light red pastel, being very gentle with it. Don't press on too hard, otherwise the colour will be too strong. So a nice gentle tone around the ears. You don't have to worry at this stage about keeping within precise lines either, because those outlines will be dealt with later on. So just use the pastel like a 1-inch paintbrush just to cover the basic area of pink tone in the portrait. And again, rub it in with the finger, keep it soft, push the pastel into the paper so that it stays there. A little bit of pink around the eyes. Again, on a white cat especially, you will see an awful lot of pink, the skin showing through. So make sure we get a fair covering of pink, or light red in this case, around that area. A little bit around the nose, under that eye. Very, very loose, very basic at this stage, so don't try to tighten up into too much detail. And around the nose, the bridge of the nose coming down into the tip of the nose. Again, quite a lot of pink around here. And also down into the muzzle and the cheeks. You'll notice again that even applying a block of colour over our original tonal sketch, the sketch still stays there. It's fixed once it's on velour paper and it won't move, which means you can rub that colour in really well and it won't smudge. Okay, so that's our pink, and then we'll do the same thing with the white soft pastel. All we're doing, we're not looking to create any detail or outlines of fur at this stage. All we're doing is creating a soft layer of white over the grey paper, over the tonal sketch, just to make sure that we have the variation in the white and grey as a blocked out colour. And again, rubbing in with the finger. So no need to concentrate on the outlines of the ears or anything at this stage. Just simply tone and colour. It's kind of the building blocks of the whole painting. If you get a good tonal sketch and good strong colours over the top of that, you'll have a solid foundation for the rest of your painting. So we're looking for the key highlighted areas, which will be predominantly white, of course. We're going to allow some of the grey pastel and the grey paper to show through, because white fur does have shadow values, and those shadow values are normally grey. So we'll let the grey paper show through here and there to give us those values. So before we start to think about too much in the way of detail and highlights, we'll just give it a little rub with the finger, consolidate the pastel, soften the edges, and then we'll leave it there and move on to the next stage.